What's up, you rascals? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out here on the channel. Much appreciated. Hope you guys can do me a favor. Got a new project going on with my guy, Alejandro Solana. I think you guys who come here for the Dolphins content will dig it. The Porpoise Pod. We're dropping that many times a week, giving you the latest on the Dolphins with silliness and info. It's a grand time. We've really been enjoying the first 5 episodes that we've done. Got a brand new one coming up later this week. We'll react to what the full roster is. Obviously, awaiting later on today to hear from the Dolphins general manager, Chris Grier, and head coach, Mike McDaniel. So we will do more of a look into what the final 53 is as of right now, since I'm recording this. The big headlines out of it are not really that surprising, I would say, is that you have Preston Williams, Lynn Bowden Jr., who were both let go. I think we all saw that writing on the wall, and that was coming. Mohamed Sanu got let go. Not really surprised by that. I'd say probably the most surprising is Sony Michel, just because they brought him in, has a little bit of a pedigree. I was under the impression that Ahmed and Gaskin, one of them was going to be gone, and they both had really good preseason. So the idea that Mike McDaniel keeps them around, I think that a lot of people were pretty hyped on their promise last year. They didn't deliver to what you thought was, but man, I think that with what that line was, what that scheme was for, maybe that he sees the talent that they have and thinks, I could do something with these guys. So I think that in itself is probably the most exciting thing, because they're young, they're explosive, they got some big play potential, and that the coach believes in their abilities and what they can do. I think that's probably the more exciting thing that comes out of the Sony Michel cut move, more so than, oh, you're not going to stick with Sony Michel. Didn't really impress during camp and all that type of stuff. So if anything surprising does happen, we'll react to it. But I think that until that, we'll probably just wait to hear what the GM and the coach have to say about anything. The reason that I wanted to do a video today was because an interesting thing happened yesterday on social media. You guys know I'm boots on the gram, and that I will peruse Twitter, and I got this one alerted to me yesterday, although I know it's really blown up since. And that is Lamar Jackson, Ravens quarterback, liked a photo of himself in a Dolphins jersey. He was responding. One of his guys got cut, and they were saying something to the effect, I think the tweeter said, let me see if I get this for you. You both can come cry in Miami. You both can come cry in a Miami Dolphins uniform. Tears of joy when we hoist Lombardi. And then it's Lamar Jackson in a Dolphins number 8 jersey. That is the snowman's number, though. So may have to pay a pretty penny for it if that were to happen. But this is a big story. I think that the idea that a former MVP looks at the Miami Dolphins quarterback situation. He is obviously in a very public contract dispute with his current team, the Baltimore Ravens. He is one of the most explosive players in the league. He is only 25 years old. And the idea that he is a South Floridian, he had mentioned that he had grown up rooting for the Cowboys and the Dolphins on Twitter. And so seeing that this guy would be interested in coming to your football team is an interesting dynamic. This is, similar to when the whole Deshaun Watson thing was going down with the Dolphins. Obviously, before we realized he was a creep. Lamar Jackson has put up huge numbers for the Ravens. He's been a former MVP, won a playoff game, and all of that, understanding that people are scared as hell to pay the running quarterback because they think that eventually it's going to peter out, that you can't win in playoff games, and that this guy is going to hit a certain ceiling. But it is interesting to me, a couple things. One, this is not a move that you can make this year. This is not before the season, go all in and trade for Lamar Jackson. You can't do that. You have put so much into building this offense with a first-year head coach, a first-year play caller, and a quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, where you've built everything for his skill set. The receivers, the offense, the communication, all of that type of stuff. To go from Tua Tagovailoa to Lamar Jackson is a complete flip of the script. It's a very, very tough maneuver for the Miami Dolphins to make. This, though, is going to be a storyline. Once again, Tua is going to be in a spot where people, if he does not perform, are going to probably be clamoring for Lamar Jackson to come down here. He is beloved down here. You remember last year when the Dolphins hosted the Baltimore Ravens? Ravens were the Dolphins' daddies for a long time. And the story going into that, even from the local papers, was homecoming king. It was all Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson. And Tua Tagovailoa didn't even start that game. Came off the bench and ended up winning the game and stunned everybody and had one of the best moments of his season last year against this Ravens team. But now you have another quarterback who kind of is like circling like a buzzard over this QB situation and wondering to himself, all right, if I could land somewhere, because you know, we've seen this with the Baker Mayfields of the world where like you need a landing spot, a Jimmy G. Now, obviously Lamar Jackson is in a much different class, and I do think that there would be a team that would back up the Brinks truck for him. But this particular team, it's an interesting one because there have been draft rumors around Lamar Jackson in years past that Stephen Ross wanted to draft him and that he wanted to go all in on Lamar Jackson. And he's obviously been an absolute dynamite for the Ravens on the field since, and flipped his rookie season. He flipped the season around for him. Mentioned the MVP season where he was just absolutely unstoppable, unbeatable. But this is going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on because let's just say the Tua thing doesn't work out. And I don't want to go all Keyshawn Johnson on everybody, but Keyshawn Johnson had a snippet the other day on social media where he goes to the effect of, they're not all in on Tua. They don't believe in him. And somebody goes, well, how do you know that? It's like, well, they've tried to replace him 3 times in 3 years. Which is a fair argument. It's a good argument from Keyshawn Johnson. I didn't agree with everything that he was saying, but it's a good boxing if you are him. Tyreek Hill commented on it saying this ain't it as far as hating is concerned, because I think that the organization has tried to place him is true. This coaching staff has been backing him. This team and this locker room has been backing him all in. But he has to perform. Even Tyreek Hill has acknowledged that if this isn't the year for Tua Tagovailoa, then it's probably over for him as far as being looked upon as the franchise QB for the Dolphins. So no excuse season for Tua. You know, invested in the line, invested heavily in wide receiver, invested in weapons. And so if that doesn't work out, where do the Dolphins go? Do you start all over again with a young head coach, or do they go in the realm of trying to break the bank? Let's just say the contract thing doesn't work out for Lamar Jackson. He has another Lamar Jackson season. Let's not call it MVP. Let's not say they win the Super Bowl. But let's say he has an average Lamar Jackson season, keeping in with his career numbers. They either win in the first round and then get bounced, or, you know, let's not say they make the conference finals or Super Bowl, all that stuff that would obviously cause them to lock down. Let's say that he has a good season. The Dolphins doesn't live up to snuff. Would this be something that they pursue? I think they definitely would. I think that if you're Mike McDaniel in this case, like, are you going to go knocking on the door of Jimmy Garoppolo and you kind of know what the ceiling is? Or do you get somebody as explosive as Lamar Jackson and think to yourself, you know what? Let's see what we can build around this guy. He's never had the skill guys that the Dolphins currently have right now, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki and all that type of stuff. You know, he's always kind of been shortchanged on that stuff. Now, they've had good running backs in Baltimore, which has certainly helped what benefits him in that run game. I think that Mike McDaniel's kind of made his bones of being a run game guru more so than a quarterback guru. And so if you bring a guy in Lamar Jackson, who is the most talented running quarterback in the league, is that a match that would be made in heaven, or are people too terrified of this guy making too much of his living running with his legs, and eventually that's going to burn out? Now, I don't see him as like a Cam Newton where he is banging bodies all the time and he's bigger than everybody and he's putting himself in harm's way. Does seem to himself to be a little bit more elusive. Now, he did get hulked up this offseason, so that is something to keep an eye on if he is going to try and be a little bit more physical this year, or if that's something where he just feels like he's going to be in the pocket more and he needs to be able to handle the wear and tear, or maybe that's just a 25-year-old putting it on man muscle. I don't know. But I do think that there is going to be a drum of the fan base, if things don't work out for Tua, that will be looking at this Lamar Jackson thing as a thing. It's kind of like the Teddy Bridgewater thing, where people were like, oh, local kid, he would be a popular backup. But I think you could see from the skill set, this is a grand gulf between Tua and where Teddy Bridgewater are at in their careers. It has not really been close in camp, never has been, and I don't think that it will be. And I hope that this isn't something that's really put to question, because my hope is that Tua Tagovailoa is awesome this year, that he leads the Dolphins to the playoffs, and him and Tyreek Hill are a match made in heaven. Because some of the things that Keyshawn Johnson was saying were a little bit wacky, like, oh, well, Tyreek Hill's not going to be happy because they got to spread the ball around to Waddle, and that's going to be a cause for problem. I'm like, no, dude, this isn't all just you where it's like, throw me the damn ball. Like, he has been in a situation where he hasn't even led his team in receiving in receptions most years of his career in Kansas City. That's been Kelsey. Last year was the outlier more so than the other years where it's been Kelsey as the guy who was getting the bulk of the catches. But it's tough not to look at a situation like Lamar Jackson and be like, he's intrigued, likes himself in a Dolphins uniform. Now, this could also be a situation where Lamar Jackson is looking for leverage. You know, he is got this deadline of week 1. He's looking for what would get the fan base a little bit uneasy. Remember, he represents himself. So could he be using the Dolphins as a leverage play? That could be too. You know, he could just be using, he knows he's very popular down here. He knows that the media rolled out the red carpet for him while he was down here. And I do think that the move of getting Lamar Jackson by a lot of people would be lauded. Not everybody, because I know a lot of people are all in on Tua, and I know that there are people that are very queasy about giving a guy who's that electric with his legs the long-term deal that would, you know, you're always wondering when is the fall off going to happen with the athleticism. But I will say, like, he is not like this unbelievably inaccurate passer. I mean, Josh Allen, who's, you know, lit the world on fire the last couple of years, he had 2 seasons that were way more inaccurate than Lamar Jackson's worst season of inaccuracy. Now, obviously, Josh Allen has turned the corner on that, and he's blown up, and he's been amazing. But I don't, you know, is it out of the realm of possibility that Lamar Jackson could do something like that as well? I don't know. He also never had a guy like Stephon Diggs next to him ever in his career. Nobody's even close to him. Hollywood Brown, come on, get out of here, dude. Like that, he has never had the cast of characters that a Josh Allen says, like he would have hypothetically in a situation if he were to come down here with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Look, again, I just wanted to point it out. This is something that I think has to be acknowledged and has to be realized as the season goes on, one way or another, that this player in particular, who is from down here, has interest in the idea of playing for his hometown team. Does that mean that he wants to come here immediately? I'm sure he wants to go anywhere that will give him the money that he wants and deserves. Or is that something just to keep an eye on if things do go awry and he plays out this season? I think that's the better play. I mean, like the idea of like the Dolphins giving up a heap of draft picks to say, you know what, the whole Tua thing, we were kidding. Lamar Jackson, he wants to be here. I don't think you could do that now. I think it's too close to the season. I think you're all in with the plan. Let's not get wacky. But if things do go awry, this Lamar Jackson thing doesn't feel like a thing that will necessarily go away. Of course, unless he locks up long-term with the Baltimore Ravens. But if he doesn't, and the Tua thing kind of goes, meh, this could be something that we revisit down the line.